is myself. I'm the Director of Product Management at Itron. Sheila Keys, Senior Product Manager. Phil Coles, Product Manager. Brian Fute, Senior Tech Sales Engineering. Next slide. Brett Kaffenberger, Senior Product Manager. Carmen Zhu, Senior Product Manager, and Brian Tucker, Product Manager. So big group, and we're excited to have you guys. Next slide, please. So we're going to cover introductions, then we'll talk about meters and AMI essentials for water, transitioning from AMR to AMI, deep dive on Temetra and Temetra analysis. We'll do a demo of Temetra analysis. Then we're going to do a little multimedia video from the BBC. Then we'll talk about Itron Inspire, and then we'll do a roundtable question and answer session at the end. So we'll address all the questions in that last 15 minutes. Who's represented here today? Utilities and partners. It's a long list. I'm not going to read that entire list, but we're really excited to have you guys. And as you can see, we have a lot of representation from across the country. So high-level intelligent infrastructure solutions. We're going to talk about intelligent networks, software and analytics, our services, our meters and sensors, plus other devices. And we're going to cover our advanced metering infrastructure, automated meter reading, distributed energy management and consumer engagement, smart city applications, and industrial IoT. This kind of just gives you a broader portfolio of what Itron has to offer in addition to the water solutions we're presenting here today. So we know everyone's on a different journey, but what we're offering from a water end-to-end solution is a solution that's not dependent on where you're at in that journey. We can start you off with solutions to help with manual meter reading using, and all of this are based on Temetra. If you're transitioning from manual reading to AMR, we can provide drive-by, walk-by solutions as well as the communication modules for those meters. And then as you transition from AMR to AMI and MDM, we can provide a full solution there with a unified backend, over-the-air firmware, remote shutoffs, long-term data storage, right, and all the analytics associated with that more granular AMI data, which we are going to demo today to show you how we can use that data to help manage your water losses. So anywhere on that path, we can help you migrate from one to the other, or just help from where you're at on that path, and help you improve your digital transformation at the utility. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Kaffenberger to talk about meters and AMI essentials.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brett Kaffenberger. I'm the line of business manager for our global water networks. So we're going to touch base, talk a little bit about the water meter metering, and then I'm going to hand that off to Carmen. She's going to go into some more details on our cellular water solution. So starting out here talking about meters, so our modules essentially are compatible with every meter manufacturer that you're going to come across in North America. That includes pulse output and encoder output. So we maintain that as we always have, as essentially a differentiator, being able to read all these different meters from mechanical. Pulse still used on compound meters, so you still see those out there. But just about everything else is moving to encoder. And then in addition to that, if you could go to the next slide, please. In addition to that, we have extended alarm. So with our 500W series, whether it's our our Gen X product line or it's our cellular product, we bring those extended alarms back over the network and display those into Metro, which they'll get in a little more of that. Brian will get into that as we move forward. So what that essentially is we read any of our radio modules, the 100W, 500W, will read the ultrasonic meters. But each ultrasonic meter, static meter in general, has an extended protocol that they can send out that gives you additional alarms such as empty pipe, temperature threshold, a high flow, zero consumption, low battery, a tamper or cut cable alarm, reverse flow. And some of these are redundant in our radio module, but some of these are specific to the meter. So for the extended alarms, we support the Diehl Hydrus meter, we support the Camstrip Flow IQ, and the Badger E-Series meter. Next slide, please. Okay, so talk a little bit about Diehl. So Diehl is the meter that we go to market with in North America. So we have a strategic partnership with Diehl. For those of you that aren't aware of Diehl or don't know much about them, so Diehl is a large global company, one of the top meter manufacturers globally. Their corporate manufacturing base is in Germany. They have a manufacturing center now up outside of Chicago in Lyle, Illinois, where they're doing final production and they're really ramping that up. So Diehl has been around for a long time. There are a lot of different industries. They have over 4 million ultrasonic meters deployed worldwide. So they are not new to the industry. They make OEM components, original equipment manufacturer, for several different meter manufacturers, one being Badger and their E-Series meter up until recently. So they are very prevalent in North America, whether you've seen them or not. They've been here a while. We have deployed, we're in the process of deploying 600,000 of these in San Antonio. So that will be the largest ultrasonic meter deployment in North America, one of the largest in the world globally. Our partners that are on this call have been very successful and done an excellent job positioning and selling the meter. So a little bit about the meter itself is 5/8 by half through 2 inch. Today, there's a 5 inch, which is a shorter meter that you compare with a shutoff valve. So that equals 2.5 inch or 7.5 inch, I mean, for so you could put it right in a meter set without having to change any of the piping if you wanted to add a shutoff valve, which our radio modules do support. It's fully pod electronics. Not all of these have fully pod electronics. And for those of you that have knowledge around electronics in this industry, obviously everything is in a pit where it's wet, where it's humid, where it's submerged for sometimes weeks at a time. We believe it's very important to have that podding around the electronics. So that's one of the reasons we work with Diehl and their Hydrus meter. They have a ceramic self-cleaning transducer. So within, not to get too technical, but within the meter itself, there are lenses and transducers that bounce ultrasonic frequency, ultrasonic sound, essentially sound waves back and forth, and that's how it determines the rate of flow. So they have a specific design that allows that keeps hard water from building up on those sensors. So if hard water builds up on the sensors, it can essentially degrade the accuracy over time. The design of this product doesn't allow for that, so you don't have to worry about the accuracy. It will maintain its accuracy over the 20 years within the AWWA low flow tolerance. There is an optical interface where on the Hydrus 2, you can actually change some of the configurations. Most utilities won't change their configuration. They're not going to change their resolution on the meter. They're not going to change their alarm parameters. But for a channel partner, having that ability to change that, buy one thing and be able to reconfigure it and sell it is a very interesting prospect. So there is, in addition to that, there is a 3-inch and above 3-inch to 8-inch CNI line, which is ultrasonic, which is due to be released by the end of this year. So we'll have more information on that as that becomes available, but we have been promoting it to an extent, but we're really waiting on Diehl to give us the green light to proceed full go with that. So a little bit more about the meter. Low flow down to 0.025 gallons per minute. So just a very quick story on this. So we had these installed in San Antonio. San Antonio originally did a pilot with these where they put them in a meter farm. They ran these essentially in parallel with, or I'm sorry, yeah, in parallel with or in series actually with ultrasonic meters and PD meters. And they ran over 2 million gallons, 2 to 3 million gallons. I can't remember exactly what it was. And the PD meters burn out, every single one of them. And the deal meters kept going. And when they put those on the bench, they still tested within that low flow tolerance for AWWA. So it was pretty impressive. Another quick story on this meter as well, as far as low flow accuracies. We're talking about catching leaks you would not normally see. So they put these in one of the director's home at the utility, and they noticed a leak. They kept seeing this leak. It kept coming up. They sent plumbers out there. They couldn't find the leak. Essentially, finally, they said, yeah, there's a leak. Are you guys sure? And they went back and forth. So they end up going out there with Correlator, and they end up finding this leak, which was essentially not much more than a drip, just a small, steady stream, not much more than a drip of water dripping from the shower head behind the shower wall down into the shower pan. Hadn't leaked enough to cause damage yet, but nonetheless, it was a leak. So that's the low flow accuracy we're talking about, being able to pick up very small leaks. Mentioned it maintains accuracy over the life of the product. It's no lead brass. I mentioned the shutoff valve. Excuse me. And then the extended protocol. So that, like I said, that's empty pipe, low temperature, low battery, low flow leak, water temperature, zero flow, backflow, reverse flow. So there's a lot of additional data, and we're still working with Diehl to pull even more data out of the meter in the future. But that's the meter in itself, and all that information is displayed within Temetra today. So having said that, I will turn this over to Carmen to talk a little bit more about the cellular water solution. Carmen?
That's great. Thanks, Brett. Again, it's Carmen Shi here. I'm the solution owner for AMI Essential Water and Gas. And today, I would like to share the exciting news with you guys with regards to the new bundle solutions for cellular AMI Essentials for water. So let's talk about what's essentials. So semantically, this term, we've been using this term to designate something that is necessary. It's absolutely needed, it's extremely important, minimally required, and we cannot do without. And Itron has begun using this term to describe the most core and basic offering for a lot of our products and solutions. And this includes, meter data management with IAE, AMI Essential for electric. So nothing new. We are expanding the same model, which is AMI Essential, what is basic and core, to AMI Essentials Water. And that's what I would like to share with this group, what exactly it is, what does it entail, and what are the value propositions that AMI Essential Waters entails. So as you could see from this slide here, we try to make the solutions easy, meaning it has to be easy to deploy, no hassles to manage the system, and therefore this AMI Essential Water solution is a bundled solution that covers 4 elements. Sheila, can you hit it one more time? There should be oh, there you go. So the 4 elements under AMI Essentials of Water includes deployment services, management of the network, which we utilize the cellular Verizon network as our initial release. And then the third component is the endpoint itself, which is our cellular 500W modules. And then lastly, all of those data could be brought into our software, which is Temetra, to allowing you to visualize the data, as well as performing shut-off operations, on-demand reads if it's needed. So the key use cases is, hey, if you do not have a Itron mesh canopy for those water-only territory, this will be a great solution, a cost-effective bundle solutions to address that business needs. Next slide, please. So let's focus on, now we have a good idea of what AMI Essential Water to offer. Who are the targeted customers? What are the number of endpoints? So like I mentioned earlier, this is a bundle repackaged solution that combines cellular technology, and our initial target market is for US only. Reason being is right now we are working with Verizon, and we'll be able to get the Verizon network that will integrate it with our endpoints. However, we are working to expand the cellular carrier from just Verizon only to other cellular carrier, as well as other markets, include Canada. So all of those items have been roadmapped. And once we have a committed date, certainly we will share that back with this team. From a total endpoint per customer perspective, my solution covers any endpoint size per customer that's less than 200K. And the way we're going to sell the solution is that we are going to partner up with our Itron channel partners, which I saw a lot of you guys on the call, as well as selling it directly to accounts, Itron accounts, where channel partner is not present. And as I mentioned earlier from our previous slide, is that for AMI Essential, it covers the cellular endpoints. It also includes the management of the cellular network. The first case, the first cellular carrier is Verizon, more to come in the future. And we are going to provide a fully managed SaaS services. So what that means is that, hey, Mr. Customer, Mr. Channel Partner, really, you don't need to worry about the day-to-day operations, such as, hey, endpoint configurations, firmware management, and the network management piece. All of this, Itron will be able to include that as part of our bundle service, and we offer it as a fully managed service as part of our bundle solutions. And I already talked about the professional service for deployment. It's included in this bundles package. So all in all, if you look at the 4 critical elements that make up my solutions, it does offer a lower total cost of ownerships from a cost standpoint. So as Jeff has mentioned in his previous slide, having AMI Essential Water ready as the first step, it helps you to build the foundations for your AMI system. What that means is that you could slowly add on to expand use cases. For example, that Sheila and in my later slide that we'll talk through, what are those additional future use cases post AMI Essential that we'll be able to add it for you. Next slide, please. Now, let's focus a bit more on what are the use cases that AMI Essential Water can bring. It supports 8 core AMI use cases. The first one there is your meter to cache, right? However, with AMI Essential, your meter to cache operations benefit from more frequent and detailed data collections, such as daily register reads and hourly interval data. The second one there on-demand reads, which allowed you to perform move-in and move-out readings over the network from the back office. Third one there, real-time alarms and events. The cellular 500 water endpoints provides real-time alarms and event notification, which helps you to promptly identify any few issues, maintaining a healthy network and gain insight to any abnormal behaviors of the system. The fourth use cases we're supporting there is really improving your customer service. Why? Because your customer service team now can quickly have access to our account data, to your account data, and being able to visualize the customer's usage to improve the call center support and quickly resolve billing issues. And the next one here is customer engagement. As part of our bundle solution, Customer Web Portal is included, which allows your customers to monitor their usage over time for budgeting purposes, and also proactively issues alerts to customer to notify them of any abnormal usage and to help reducing billing complaints. And the next one here is flexible billing support. So having the ability to do daily data exports from Temetra to your customer's information system, the CIS system, enables you to offer more flexible billing options to both of your residential as well as commercial accounts. And the seventh use case is our ability to support remote valve shutoff. And our initial release is on the cellular 500W only, which is all those targeted audience I care about. So now you are being able to perform over-the-air remote valve shutoff, which enables highly efficient shutoff operations, but by not having to roll a truck. And then lastly, flexible deployment options to augmenting AMR. So for a lot of the customers that currently are still on AMR deployments, having this AMI Essential cellular water solutions ready, it offers you the flexibility to deploy cellular solutions to your maybe high value CNI customers and hard to access mobile routes as a complementary in addition to your AMR solution. So overall, those 8 use cases will be covered all under AMI Essential Water. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, the goal of this solution is really to provide you a very simple architecture, simple solution, easy to deploy, thereby lower your total cost of ownerships. As you could see here on the left-hand side, really the system component, it's only 3 key pieces. You have the endpoints, if you're looking at the bottom of that diagram, which gathers the data, whether it's your billing register data, your interval data, your alarms and events, which sends the data, flow the data through the Verizon cellular network and feeding all the information to Temetra, which also includes a customer portal, which as you could see on the right-hand side. And it covers, like I mentioned earlier, with all those key AMI use cases that we are offering. What I like to point out is once you have AMI Essential Water solution ready, you could add an optional feature or optional component, which is Temetra analysis that Sheila is going to talk through in our next slide. But outside of the optional one, which is optional component that is circled in red, of those components that you've seen on this solution architecture, they are standard components, which are all included in AMI Essential Water solution. Next slide, please. All right, so we talked about the overall solution overview. Let's do a little bit of deep dive on the endpoint itself. No different than the, I would say, the 500W endpoints that you guys have. It offers a similar functionality, meaning, hey, not only it has the cellular capability, in addition, it also have RF capability that are being added into a single communication module. Why are we doing that? For example, if there is non-sufficient cellular coverage for a certain area, then you could turn on the RF capability to allow for a mobile network contingency read that will allow your billing data still coming in. So that is the beauty around having both cellular and RF capability in a single communication module on the Itron 500 cellular devices. I did mention earlier, it is infrastructure free, meaning that you really don't need to have any, I would say APs, right? Or a centralized data collection unit, because we're leveraging the Verizon's network. And the cellular 500W module supports the valve shutoff feature, which I mentioned earlier. And I already talked about the full 2-way cellular support that comes with our RF mobile contingency read in case if there's no sufficient cellular coverage for certain area. And of course, you'll be able to utilize those 2 modules, whether it's pit mount or remote mount, to perform any OTA over-the-air firmware upgrades, device configurations, as we need to enable future new new features, and having the ability to do OTA is certainly a plus. And the module itself is future-proof longevity with 20 years battery life, and it is 5G ready. Next slide, please. So I want to pitch a little bit on cellular network as a service. Why this is a good value proposition? Why should we be utilized or offering cellular network as a service as part of my bundle solutions? Because number one, it really eliminates the challenge where, hey, you need to find towers to hand your data collection units. With the cellular solutions, really, even if you couldn't find any light posts to hand the APs, that's not a concern anymore, because you could have a direct connections via the Verizon carrier graded cellular network, and you'll be able to leverage cellular precisely when and where it makes sense. And it does provide a good solutions to be able to bridge the gap for those hard to reach areas without extensive hardware installations like the mesh technology has. And I already talked about it's flexible, and you could certainly scale up and scale down. And it's very easy to deploy with very few components, as I have articulated in the previous architecture slide. We talked about Itron's managed service, which removes all the setup, the carrier, and managing the network. Of this will be done on behalf of Itron for all our customers. So the story we try to paint here is, if you want to look at total cost of ownerships for this entire solutions, you have the easy to deploy standard configurations for the endpoints and our system. The network is Verizon network. And if you look at all those components and have them add up together, it does offer a lower operational cost from a total cost of ownership perspective for this AMI Essential cellular water solutions. Future focused solution. Itron is not new in terms of deploying cellular solutions. We certainly keep our visions at hand where we think about, hey, future focused solutions, especially when it comes to battery powered devices. All of those devices have been designed, and we have designed the devices to meet the 20 years life guarantee, and we are able to expand the existing solution into future smart city use cases, such as sensors, lightings, wastewater management, etc. Next slide, please. So we talked about the endpoint, we talked about the network piece. Now let's talk about the software, the head-end piece, which is Temetra. So Temetra is really a one-stop shop for a lot of our customers who now currently have AMR and getting ready to transition to AMI. Why? Because Temetra is the solution, it's a head-end solutions where we are integrated as part of the AMI Essential water solution as the software component. And Brian Tucker, who's the product manager for Temetra, he's going to do a deeper dive in terms of the detailed feature, but high level, the high value propositions for Temetra. It is a web-based AMI head-end system with dashboards for monitoring read rates, your tempers and alarm informations. And you could use it as meter data management system for many utilities, in addition to using it as a data collection system. It does provide an analytics and VEE capability, as well as an integrated custom portal. And I already talked about the last point here. It's a great advantage where we'll be able to just leveraging a single software system for both AMR and AMI, allowing you to have an easier transition. The next two slides here is that we're so excited about this new release of AMI Essential Water launch. And what Itron has done is that we put together what we call a Get Started Kit promo. The key driver of it is to offer an introductory level pricing to customers who are interested to prove out the cellular platform as well as Temetra benefits for 12 months period. Targeted customers, channel partners, or if there's direct accounts that do not have channel partner presence, certainly we can offer this starter kit promotions to those customers. From an eligibility perspective, any greenfield cellular customers are eligible to receive this introductory level pricing, which is the Get Started Kit. It is available now. So if you are interested, please reach out to your sales team to get more information on what it entails and what the pricing would be for the starter kit. And I believe the next slide is my next slide here. So just a very quick overview on what the starter kit looks like, right? It comes with 100 units of cellular 500W, and it is a promotional hardware pricing, which is limited to the initial 100 units. Anything above and beyond 100 units as incremental units, they will be charged at distributor list pricing. From a SaaS perspective, it does include the 12 months trial period. It does include the cellular connectivity. It covers the initial SAP fee as well as the Temetra standard interface for billing. We will also help the customer to do a cellular propagation study for those initial 100 units. And this promotion SaaS pricing associated with the starter kit is limited to the initial 1,500 endpoints. So just to give you an idea of what it entails from a Get Started Kit perspective, again, if you're interested, reach out to your sales team, and we'll be happy to share the pricing and more details with you guys. I think that concludes my last section. Oh, I lied. So now let's say you have AMI Essential Water deployed. What are the future use cases that you could add on after you deploy AMI Essential water solutions? Certainly from a water bucket space, there's a lot of water analytic offerings that we can add on to this AMI Essential solutions. That includes pump and energy optimizations, water conservation management, pipe access management, pressure monitoring, as well as leak management with acoustic sensors, and sanitary sewer overflow monitoring and water quality monitoring. So having the ability to build that AMI Essential foundation is the key to expand those future use cases. Which I think that takes us to the end of my presentation. And now let me just transition my section to Brian Tucker, who's going to talk about AMR to AMI.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Carmen. Appreciate it. As Carmen said, my name is Brian Tucker. I'm a product manager with Itron working on our Temetra solution. And I'll be walking you through a few slides on how Temetra plays a role in transitioning from AMR to AMI. So real quick, a high-level solution overview, just so we're all on the same page with the different pieces here. Our Temetra solution consists of two primary components. That's the Temetra web application, which is really the back office piece of the solution. That's your head end for an AMI customer. If you're a mobile customer, that's where you're going to be doing your route dispatching from and running your reports from, and ultimately interfacing to your billing system from. The other piece to the solution is the Temetra mobile app. If you're familiar with our Itron mobile app, the Temetra mobile app is built on that. It looks 90% the same, which is nice for you as a utility because that means you have a very small learning curve to move your field employees over from Itron mobile to that Temetra mobile app. Of course, Temetra is also fully integrated with our cellular AMI solution. So if you choose to deploy cellular endpoints, those are natively integrated with our Temetra application. And what that means is within that Temetra web application, as Carmen and Brett were saying, you can manage both your mobile meter reading operations if you're still doing that because it makes sense for you. And you can also manage your AMI operations. And we're going to show all of that data for you within a unified interface. If you have Diehl-Hydrus meters, which are sending those advanced alarms, you're going to see all of those within that Temetra web application. As Carmen also pointed out, this solution does also include a consumer portal offering. That consumer portal is directly integrated with the Temetra web application. And if you choose to go forward with our AMI Essentials solution, you're just going to get that consumer portal as part of the offering and as part of the value that we're bringing with this solution. There's no additional integration work that you need to do to get that consumer portal to talk to that web application. What you'll need to do is just provide us the account information and some additional details on your accounts so that we can properly create those profiles for your end customers. And then again, those consumers, whether you're reading their meter with a mobile collector, an Itron mobile radio, or whether they're a cellular AMI customer and you're reading their meter multiple times a day, all of that data, as soon as it's available in the web application, is going to be made available with no additional effort on your part in that consumer portal. Want to go next slide? Okay, so because again, our theme here is moving from AMR to AMI and the role that Temetra plays in that transition. Because we know that many customers are still doing mobile meter reading today. Of course, there's aspirations and a lot of utilities are now wanting to move to AMI, but where they're at today in a lot of cases is still doing mobile or even keyed reads in a lot of cases. And so it's important that we pause and acknowledge that and talk a little bit about how we meet you where you're at today with those operations and how Temetra could start bringing you value right now for your operations, even without deploying AMI. And a couple of key pieces here, especially for our MVRS and our FCS customers, is that they can move to Temetra and generally keep their billing interface exactly the same as it is today. And so if you're an MVRS customer or an FCS customer and you're still relying on and utilizing the host download and the host upload file formats to interface to MVRS or FCS, you can move those forward to Temetra, start passing those files to Temetra. And generally what we've seen is that customers have had to make little or no changes to those file formats to start using Temetra for their mobile meter reading operations. Now, full transparency, if you want to move to cellular, there are some tweaks that you'll need to make. There's some additional information we need to properly provision those cellular endpoints, but you could start moving to Temetra today and keep your billing interface files for your mobile meter reading operations. We're also working actively today on adding support for our FCS XML file formats. And so if you made the transition from MVRS to FCS, and as part of that transition decided to go with the XML file formats, just know that we absolutely acknowledge that. We want to make sure you can continue leveraging that investment that you're making in that new file interface with Temetra. And so we're working on adding support for that file format today into Temetra. Now, you heard me talk a little bit about CSV files and using CSV files to interface to Temetra. If you want to do cellular AMI, you do need to pass us CSV files for your endpoints. And that's going to give you some new capabilities and functionality in Temetra. The first is those CSV files are going to allow you to store a lot more information within Temetra because as you'll see, Temetra is capable of acting as a meter data management and asset management system and a data warehouse for your organization. And so by choosing to move to the CSV file to interface to Temetra, you can really take advantage of those new capabilities in the system by storing information like meter installation dates, like meter models and manufacturers, meter conditions, what type of pipe a meter is connected to. All of that information can be stored in Temetra and saved there. It can be used to make queries and write those searches to identify specific meters in your population if you're using the CSV file to interface to Temetra. And then, of course, the other big value add of moving to that CSV file is that's going to enable you to start deploying those cellular endpoints. Now, a couple other points I want to make, because we want to make sure that you can continue leveraging as much of your Itron hardware and that investment that you've made in Itron as possible. And so what that means with Temetra is if you've already purchased Itron mobile radios, if you've purchased our MC3 or our MC4 radios, you can absolutely bring those along with you as part of your migration to Temetra, and they'll work with that solution just like they do today. The other side of this is on the endpoint side. Temetra, bottom line with Temetra is we support every Itron ERT that a customer has in the field today. We recognize that those endpoints are generally the biggest investment that you make with Itron when you choose to go with us. And so we want to honor that and continue allowing you to keep reading and taking advantage of that investment for as long as you can. And so that support even goes all the way back to 60 Ws, to 40 Ws, to 40 Gs. Of course, we'd love to see you pull those out of the ground and start replacing those with some newer endpoints. But again, we acknowledge that can be capital intensive, that can be labor intensive. And so we want to continue enabling you to take advantage of those endpoints while you work on getting those pulled out and replaced with something newer. Next slide. All right, so as part of this move to Temetra, we've talked about how, as a mobile customer, as an AMR customer, you can move to Temetra today, and we've tried to make that transition as seamless as possible for you. And the good news is, even as a mobile customer, of course, we want you to move to AMI. We know a lot of you want to move to AMI, but even as a mobile customer, you're still going to see a lot of benefit and a lot of value by moving to Temetra from FCS or MVRS. A few points there, map-based routing. So Temetra has the ability to allow you to pull up a map view, which will show you where all of your meters are deployed throughout your service territory. And from that map view, what you can actually start doing is lassoing certain meters within your territory and creating or modifying your schedules and your assignments to your field staff through that map-based view. That can bring a lot of value for things like ad hoc routing tasks. If you're doing theft investigation and sending people out just to specific meters, that can help you a lot in terms of making that work more efficient, because now you can actually look at a map and create those assignments based on where it makes sense. So you can grab the meters in the north part of your territory or the northeast part of your territory, grab those meters, assign that work to the field employee who it makes the most sense to be doing that work, and so on and so forth. That also carries on to contingency reads. So if you have deployed AMI and for whatever reason you're needing to go out and do some contingency reads for some of those meters, you can pull those meters up on a map-based view, and now you can dynamically create those contingency read assignments, again, based on what makes the most sense and who it makes the most sense to assign that work to. Again, as you heard me touch on, Temetra is a full data warehouse. What that means is we're going to continue storing your hourly read data, your daily read data, monthly read data, whatever you have and whatever you're collecting, we're going to continue warehousing that read data for you for as long as you maintain your subscription to this solution. And so your customer service representatives can continue to pull up that data. They can reference it for historical purposes or maybe to help address a billing complaint. Your meter shop employees can continue to pull up that data. And so there's a lot of value there in having access to that record. Advanced searches and queries. This is where you heard me talking about Temetra's ability to store things like meter models, meter manufacturers, pipe size, pipe type, when meters were installed. Temetra will store that data for you and will allow you to create queries of the system that utilize that data. So for example, if you would like to identify all of your Badger meters or all of your Deal Hydrus meters that were installed within a certain time frame, you can easily do that. You can build that query within Temetra, and then you can start doing some further analysis on those meters or create an ad hoc route based on those search results to send someone out the field and maybe do some additional validation or investigation on those meters. One of the screenshots here, you can see an example of our customer service representative view or CSR view. This is a view that will allow one of your CSRs to pull up the history. For any given meter, they can view the historic consumption going back for as long as you have data for that meter for. They can view what the average consumption has been for a meter, what its minimum, maximum consumption has been. And then they can use that information to help address customer billing complaints and explain what could be going on with the customer meter. Then finally, you heard me touch on the consumer portal. Again, Temetra does offer a consumer portal. If you move to Cellular AMI and our AMI Essentials offering, you're going to get that consumer portal as part of the standard package. And that's directly interfaced to Temetra. That allows you to provide to your customers, your ratepayers, all of that information that you've been collecting and that you're warehousing for their meter, whether that's, again, monthly reads, daily reads that you're collecting through mobile advanced AMR, or hourly data that's coming through a cellular. Next slide, Sheila. Okay, so we've talked about the mobile value adds, the mobile migration to Temetra. Now you're ready to start moving to AMI, and you'd like to start sampling some cellular endpoints. By moving to AMI with Temetra, you're really going to simplify your AMI migration, because you can move to it at your own pace. You can continue leveraging Temetra for your mobile operations where it makes sense, while you roll out those cellular endpoints, maybe to your harder to read areas or those remote areas where it's really painful to read with mobile. And then continue rolling out those cellular endpoints when the funds are available and where it makes sense to do so. While you're doing that, while you're rolling out those cellular endpoints, Temetra is still going to be your head end. Temetra is still going to be your data warehouse, and your billing interface point is going to remain the same, whether you're talking about a mobile meter or whether you're talking about an AMI meter or a keyed read meter. Your billing interface will remain the same, and you're not going to have to touch that and modify that, other than, again, providing us a CSV file with some information about those cellular endpoints. And what this means is you're going to have a single interface point for all of your meter reading operations. You're not going to have to train your users on new interfaces as part of your transition to AMI. You're not going to have to necessarily go out and build a whole new interface as part of that transition to AMI. You'll see a couple of new workbenches appear in Temetra that'll allow you to view the status of that AMI solution. You can see an example of one of those workbenches within Temetra, where we're showing you how many valid reads we've been processing from the AMI solution. Any alarms or tampers will be displayed in that workbench. And then if there's any endpoints that we're having trouble hearing from, we'll give you all of that information right within Temetra. Again, it's not going to be a major change to your interface. You'll just see some new workbenches appear. And then, of course, the other difference is you're going to have a lot more data for your meters, because you're pulling in hourly data now multiple times a day. And so your customer service representatives, your engineering teams, and your meter shop teams will see a new view appear for your meters, which shows them that granular hourly or even 15-minute interval data for those meters that have an equipped cellular endpoint. We'll show you all of that data going back for as long as we have history for the meter. We'll do some calculations with that data to show you, for example, hourly average consumption, hourly minimum consumption, which is great for doing things like analyzing the magnitude of a leak. And we'll also show you hourly maximum consumption. And then, of course, you can continue leveraging Temetra for your mobile meter readings. So again, if you have areas where it just makes sense still to keep doing mobile, or maybe the cellular coverage there is poor, and so you want to keep doing mobile, Temetra is still going to be your solution for that. So again, it's single user interface, single interface point to your billing system. Next slide, Sheila. All right, and now I'll turn it over to Sheila Key, our Senior Product Manager, to talk through Temetra and Temetra Analysis.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila Key, Senior Product Manager for Temetra Analysis, and let me advance the slide. As you have heard from Carmen and Brian, they've talked about AMI Essentials and Temetra, so I wanted to show you where Temetra Analysis lies under the Temetra umbrella. So on the left-hand side of this chart, you will see Temetra Analysis, Temetra as the head end and MDMS Lite and customer portal, and then Temetra Analysis, which some of you might have heard before, or it is formerly known as Water Operations Management. It offers that advanced analytics as it relates to water loss monitoring and the reduction of non-revenue water loss. So we'll go through the Temetra Analysis offerings in details today. So In this chart, you'll see eventually the entirety of our Temetra analysis offerings. So you have operational visibility application, which really is that automated water balance, whether is it hourly, daily, or monthly. Monitoring your water loss KPI. There is also visualization of hourly flow, pressure, and tank levels, along with 48 hours of forecasting that provides that utility with that holistic view of your historical usage. And then in addition, we have which you will see in Brian's demo shortly. We have hydraulic simulation and visualization and transmission mains monitoring as well. And included in operational visibility is event investigation, which is really a monitoring tool to allow for the detection of any type of anomalies within the water distribution network. So events are basically monitored by device or area type. Service points events could include your consumption trend, your customer site leakages, endpoints with no reads, and zero consumption. So these warnings allow you to monitor the events and to take prompt actions where necessary. So in addition to the ability to provide water loss monitoring, not only to a DMA district meter area level, we can also do it at a territory-wide level, which I will go through in a little bit more details later. So once you know where your issues are within the territory or your district meter areas, you can then apply additional modules like water revenue assurance if it's related to apparent losses, or water leak management if it's related to real losses. So here, water revenue assurance basically allows the utilities to have the ability to identify the optimal number of meters that they want to replace that will generate the best return on investment. For water leak management, Itron has two ways in which we can provide leak pre-localization. So one of them is with the use of pressure sensor data and updated hydraulic models, and the other is with acoustic leak sensors, which do not need the presence of district meter areas, but you would generally need a Itron network to be in place. So we'll expand on these two offerings in the later slides. In addition, we can also provide a wide range of consulting services such as hydraulic modeling, design planning, strategic sensor placement, one-time meter replacement, prioritization, billing data analysis, and water data audit. So how does Temetra analysis tie everything together? Let's look at the data flow with Temetra analysis. So one of the data requirements to calculate the water balance table is consumption data. Consumption data can be collected via different types of Itron networks, such as your Water Cellular, GenX, Choice Connect. We can also ingest data from third-party systems, such as your GIS, hydraulic models, and SCADA. So through these actions, we can enable new outcomes that are focused on monitoring, measuring, and reducing water losses. So how do we achieve data readiness in managing water loss? This is really important. Traditional operations data sources include like SCADA systems that collect and store data at very small intervals. GIS allows the users to access data in a geographic or spatial context like a map. This is especially important for utilities operations. Your hydraulic models are used to optimize the network, help identify leaks, and help with seasonal demand fluctuation simulations. For drinking water utilities, meters represent a huge source of data that can be collected with the system. So AMI systems like Water Cellular, Choice Connect Fixed Network can help to automate your meter reading, your billing, and your collection process. So this really provides utility with critical data and insights into the network infrastructure and customer behavior. So we're able to ingest all of this data into our unified Temetra analysis platform, where we would perform data cleaning, looking at data integrity and data completeness. So what does this mean? So data cleaning is basically the process of detecting and correcting or removing any corrupt data or inaccurate records from the database. Data integrity is the accuracy and the consistency of the data. Data completeness is the comprehensiveness or the wholeness of the data. There should be no gaps or missing information for the data to be truly complete. Sometimes incomplete data is unusable, but often it still can be used even with missing data. So in Temetra analysis, we have the ability to gap fill the data. So Temetra analysis really is the unified platform to bring disparate systems together to provide that visibility into the health of your water distribution network, as well as to allow you to identify areas where additional assessment or actions are required to maximize your return on investment. So let's talk a little bit about territory-wide OB. This is new. So what we are able to do is, if for utilities who do not have district meter areas, we have the ability to provide a automated water balance up to 100,000 connected, for utilities up to 100,000 connected customers. So what this essentially does is we will be able to have views on the supplied volume, the aggregated consumption data, the total losses, and then we're able to deal with data granularity from monthly to hourly if you do have an AMI system. And then the automated water balance can also be provided if you have water pressure data. Currently, it is limited to less than 15,000 connections. And so this basically will allow us to provide to have the view of the supplied volume, aggregated meter consumption, rear and apparent loss split. Especially when you have pressure data, we are able to actually break out the water loss into real and apparent losses, so it allows you to take appropriate actions. And then the data granularity is the same. We can do hourly to monthly, and then the KPI calculations such as your infrastructure leakage index, ILI, your UARL, unavoidable annual real losses, and your CARL, current annual real losses. So before we go into the demo, this is basically a basic hierarchy of the Temetra analysis user experience. So what you can see is when you sign on, you will see the Temetra analysis dashboard, and depending on what is subscribed, you have operational visibility, which then can branch off into different options with transmission mains monitoring, with your territory, region, or DMA view, your event investigation, and your hydraulic model visualization. And then you also have the ability to look at your water revenue assurance reports and water leak management. And for the purpose of today's demo, I'm going to hand it off to Brian, and he's going to show you a demonstration of operational visibility. Brian.
Thanks, Sheila. Hi, everybody. Brian Feud here, the other Brian on the call, your technical sales engineer. And let me go ahead and share out my live demo here. And let me know when you see a map of the Bay Area. Sheila, do you see that?
Yes, I can see it now.
Great. Okay. So thanks again, Sheila, for giving us a primer on Temetra analysis. So what are we talking about here? What is this Temetra analysis component? So what we're doing is we are putting to use all of the data, all of that information that's been collected for so-called billing purposes. It does it very well. But all the data that Brett and Brian and Carmen mentioned that's coming in that Temetra can store, we're going to use that information to solve other problems across your enterprise. So as Sheila mentioned today, we're going to focus on the operational visibility components of Temetra analysis. And what we're really looking at here, what we're zeroing in on is non-revenue water, NRW. And we're going to be able to break that down both into real losses, such as leaks, as well as apparent losses, such as theft or bad meters. And we're going to do that through a concept known as district metering analysis, or DMA, where we take your territory, your service territory, and we'll break it down into smaller districts, where then we can do an analysis district by district, where we compare all of the data that came in from all of your meters. We aggregate that up into a virtual meter, and then we compare that information in a time synchronized fashion to the water that flowed into that district at the same time, right? That goes into and that goes out of. Very straightforward. In theory, if everything's working right, they should be equal, right? What was metered at any moment in time ought to have been equal to what flowed in at any moment in time in any of these districts. And guess what? It almost never is. It's not so much is it bad or not? It's a question of how bad is it? And so that's what OV is going to let you find. It's going to detect where you've got non-revenue water issues. And it can also serve as a baseline. Once you start taking corrective action based on the data that you're given from Temetra analysis, you'll be able to go back and compare what, how effective that corrective action was. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at a hypothetical utility based in the Bay Area, but we're using real customer data for this demo. So when you first log in to Temetra analysis, to operational visibility, you'll see your entire service territory. In this case, it's the peninsula, the northern peninsula of the Bay Area. It's possible that you as a utility may have multiple service territories across different states or regions, and that's what you would see when you logged in. You would see your territory or territories on the map, and the associated information that goes with those, some of the information there on the right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to zoom in. I'm going to click on this arrow here, and it's going to take us basically to the same map, right? But you can see now that this Bay Area has been broken up into a variety of different districts, or DMAs, district metering areas. And we've employed a color coding technique. Green good, red bad. I thought of that. No, not really. But you can see over here, this table tells you sort of what the color coding is. Blue has an ILI, or an infrastructure leak index, sort of a comparative analysis, apples to apples against other utilities and standards. So we've got an ILI here from 1 to 2 is very good. That's your blue districts. Good, an ILI of 2 to 4 is green. Amber is getting worse. That's from 4 to 8 of an ILI. And red bad, green good, red bad. 8 or greater is considered a very poorly performing DMA. So we've got a map view here. We can also switch to list view. And in this case, you now get a working list of all the same information, right? You can sort this by a variety of different KPIs. I can bring my top offenders into view here. For example, I've got ILI here. If I sort on ILI, I can see that, my worst offender here, of all of those districts in my territory, the worst offender pretty much by far is DMA number 4. So I think we may want to come back and take a look at that a little bit later. Let's switch back to our map view. And then down below the map view is what we call the water balance table. All right, pretty straightforward. This is being presented with monthly data. So either we got monthly reads or we rolled up hourly data to represent monthly. And what you see here, I'll go ahead and blow this out. You can see it a little clearer. What you see month by month is your water balance up until the most recent month. So the blue bar on the left of each month is the amount of water that was metered in through a bulk inflow meter, sometimes called a master meter. On the right, you have the green bar, which is the amount of water that was metered out by all of your meters. And like I said, simultaneously aggregated and compared to the same time frame as the master meter. And then the red is your non-revenue water. And in this case, we're not doing so red hot. We're at about 50%, 44.45% non-revenue water. And as I mentioned, now this is for the entire district, or I'm sorry, the entire region. And as I mentioned, let me blow that back out. Oops, I'm going to reset here. Yeah, there we go. As I mentioned, we can break that that non-revenue water down into a full water balance, which, as you can see now, the colors have changed. It's changed from red to different hues of purple. The light purple or magenta alert for you Get Smart fans is an apparent loss. Okay, and the dark purple are your real losses. So scrolling back up here, you can see that this is the KPI that I'm using now, the ILI. There's a variety of other KPIs that I can rearrange and look at the data with, including real loss. So let's take a look. And did you see how the map changed? Right, some areas became green from a leak perspective, while others turned amber. And so now what I can do, since I've got new information and a new presentment, is I can drill into that. I can take a look at what's going on here. Let's take a look at this amber district number 6. I'll select it, and what's happened is that I'm now seeing the water balance table just for that district. And so scroll down a little bit so you can see the legend. And pretty much as predicted, you've got the blue line for each month, the green line for each month. Let's see if I can't make that a little bit larger. And what this is telling me is just what the map said. The non-revenue water for this district is predominantly a real loss or a leak. So I very definitely have something going on here. And now that I know that I have some kind of a real loss issue in this district, DMA number 1, I can start to employ some of the Itron corrective actions with our water leak management solutions. We have, as Sheila mentioned, we have a variety of solutions to track down the leaks in this district. We've got acoustic leak detection technology you can deploy to listen for the leaks. We've got pressure analysis techniques as a service that we can offer to you, again, to figure out where that is. But the point of this exercise is that OV has now nailed down where you have leak problems, where to point, your limited resources to go after leaks, and where things are fine and you don't really need to be doing, for example, territory-wide leak surveys, right? If anything, you want to focus those leak surveys on the 2 amber districts. In a similar fashion, I'll bring up my KPI table again here. In a similar fashion, I can also sort the data on the map by apparent losses. And again, you can see that the map once again changed. And while most of my districts are pretty clean when it comes to theft or mismetering, I can see up here in the Embarcadero area, I've got kind of a problem. So again, I'll click on that, and just as expected, especially recently, you can see that the majority of my non-revenue water in this area is the magenta color, or an apparent loss. So again, there are a variety of tools offered by Itron that you can employ. Now that you know you've got an issue in this northern district, we can start employing revenue assurance tools, such as our meter replacement survey and a variety of other things that Sheila mentioned. That's where you want to use those solutions to track down that problem and then come back and measure it, right? Once you've gone through and found the thief or found the bad meter or meters, come back, take a look, make sure that that's now being shown as a green bar as opposed to a magenta bar. All right, well, let's circle back then to our ILI analysis and take a look at something else. How am I doing on time? So far, so good. We notice now when we're sorting this by ILI, the Infrastructure Leak Index, I noticed that my district here in the middle, DMA4, is amber. So let's take a look now. Let's take a look at the water balance table just for this DMA, and the solid line here that's coming up out of sort of nowhere in May and rising up to, what are we at here? 48.38% non-revenue water. Not great. And so I think what I'd like to do is start to zoom in a little bit on this data. So I'm gonna go back in time, since we have all of this information. Go back to where that line first started to jump up. Looks like it's right around May or June. And since I have daily data, I'm going to zoom in on that. And sure enough, look at that. I'll zoom in a little bit more here. You can see that right around June 20th or 21st, I had a substantial jump in non-revenue water. And I'm going to drill in a little bit more here. Since I have hourly data, I'm going to zoom in a bit more and see what that's telling me. And again, I'm looking at the purple and the magenta colors here, the apparent loss and the real loss. You can see, I'm going to blow this out for you. You can see just about 6 a.m. on June 21st. Well, a little bit before that, we had a very big spike in apparent losses. And then right after that, we had a significant jump in our leak, our real losses. And so what I'm getting out of this, it's just one possible story. We have to investigate further. But what I'm getting out of this is that somebody probably got in there and tampered with their meter, probably a pretty big meter, a CNI meter, like just judging by the loss of that dark purple that jump. Somebody tampered. We had that apparent loss for a period of time, and they screwed something up. Whether they realized it or not, they've got a pretty massive leak now. Starting on June 21st, there you see that purple bar jump way up. Now I know, I might have had my own crews out there it'd be good to check records, right? And see if we did repair work on a CNI meter. And it might help you figure out which one it is. Otherwise, like I mentioned, we can employ a variety of the Itron tools to start nailing down what's really going on. Okay, I think in the time that I have left, I think I'd like to show you one more thing here. Yeah, I got a little time. So let's take a look at this district number 9. And something new here I haven't showed you yet is that you actually have the ability to zoom in to each of these districts and not only look at the aggregated meter data, which is what that water balance table is, but you can actually look at the data that's coming from each of your sensors that you've deployed in each of your districts. So in this case, you can see that I've got, for that district, I've got one bulk inflow meter right here. And I've got 3 pressure sensors scattered around the district. So I'll go ahead, let me turn off the forecast. Well, maybe I'll mention that. You can see here that Temetra Analysis, the OV module, has the ability to do forecasting out 48 hours here. And there's a pretty good correlation between the forecast and the actual data. That's a good sign. But to clear things up a little bit, I'm going to just turn that off for now. And what you see here coming in from this bulk inflow meter, right? This is the meter that's metering all of the water that flowed into that district, on an hour-by-hour basis. And what you see here is very typical, what we call a diurnal curve, where in the morning, things start ramping up, consumption starts to go way up, people go into work or whatever. Then it kind of drops off in the afternoon and then picks up. There's usually a spike. And then it drops off into the middle of the night, what we call the night line. And this night line here has special significance for some of our analytics, where we kind of baseline that as your minimum flow, and we can extrapolate from there. That's basically going to be your leaks. We can extrapolate there from total losses what your apparent losses is. So pretty ordinary, pretty typical view here. So let's go over to that problem child that I had with the apparent losses. Let's jump over there. And we'll turn off this bulk inflow meter. Let's turn on the bulk inflow meter to the Embarcadero. And holy Christmas, look at that. I'm gonna, like I did before, I'm gonna turn off the forecasting. Off, please. And then this is just a wacky consumption curve. I mean, look at this. It's up a little and it's down. It's very choppy. There's not a lot of flow to it. And sometimes it even goes to zero flow. It's completely cut off. Now, I don't exactly know what's going on here, except I know now that I have a problem. And I'm going to just throw something out there. I'm going to suspect that maybe we've got a faulty PRV, pressure reduction or reducing valve, that is really chopping the supply and sometimes even completely turning it off. This is the kind of thing that you'd want to start investigating right away. And it's the kind of thing that you can get in front of before it becomes a huge customer dissatisfier, right? Before the complaints start pouring in, you can see this information and respond to it. All right. Well, I think that's about all that we can share today about operational visibility. And again, when it comes to non-revenue water, less is always better. So I hope you can see how the operational visibility component of Temetra analysis can help you spot baseline and reduce your overall non-revenue water. With that, I'll hand back to the team to continue our presentation.
Thanks, Brian. So as you can see, Brian has demonstrated operational visibility. So I'm going to take some time to talk about water revenue assurance and water leak management. So water revenue assurance, this is, let's take a look at the conceptual data flow of how we arrive at our meter replacement recommendations. So first, we will require customer data, the customer to provide us with 3 to 5 years worth of billing data. In most cases, data cleaning is required. The amount of data cleaning is going to be dependent on the quality of data that is being provided to us. The utility will provide the matter meter data such as your service point ID, meter type, meter diameter, district meter location if applicable. And then when the data is ready, it will be loaded into Temetra analysis. We will then apply consumption profiles to these meters that will allow us to detect reverse meter flow and meter change, identify if the meters are incorrectly sized for its application, conduct a loss age analysis. We can also track meter gain assessment if those meters, certain specific meters are being changed out. So some of the unusual usage analytics include your consumption pattern detection, increasing the identification of unusually high or low consumption, your zero consumption, increasing, decreasing consumption, and your endpoints with no reads. So these analyses are all done at the back end of the software, and we'll be able to provide a initial analysis of the meter replacement list, net present value, and return on investment projection. So once the meters are being changed out, we will then be able to monitor those specific batch of meters and provide a meter gain assessment report as well. So over here, this really shows you, the report that the water utility will receive with the list of meters that are ranked according to their criteria selection, such as if they are going to base their meter replacement on apparent loss value and volume. So on this list, you can see there is a total number of endpoints of 1,622 that are being analyzed, and it generated a list of 98 meters that are suggested for meter replacement. So the utility will be able to prioritize their meter change out based on their taking into account their budget and resource availability. And so these meters can essentially be assigned for meter change out within the utilities work order system. And then once the change out is done, Temetra analysis will monitor and track the billed consumption gain of these meters. So we will be able to demonstrate this in our future forums. We just don't really have enough time today to do that. And then for water leak management, as mentioned before, we do have two methods of providing leak management, one with pressure data and one with acoustic leak sensor. So let's talk about how we do it with pressure. So the concept is really having a calibrated hydraulic model that is generated for the area that needs to be monitored. And then you will have pressure sensors installed within the area along with the flow meters and consumption data to provide that monitoring solution to help you identify where the potential leaks are as they arise. And then this solution also provides access to our highly trained hydraulic engineers who will then monitor your district meter areas or zones and use advanced modeling software to perform pre-localization. So this method really, it is not as precise as installing our permanent acoustic leak detection devices, but it does allow the utility to go with a minimum amount of hardware investment to help identify areas that have high leakage, to segment the area and identify segments where the leakage are occurring. And then the size of the segment really will determine the number of pressure sensors that is being installed. Ideally, we would like to have a minimum of 3 pressure sensors and maybe a max of 5 to 8 sensors, which is quite common for an area of around 2 to 4 square miles. So depending on the level of involvement required from our hydraulic engineers, we will work with the utility and within Temetra Analysis to identify these areas and segments where there could be high flow, low pressure that is being detected to indicate a potential leakage. So at this point, the utility would still have the requirement to send out their leak detection field crew to go highlight the areas for leak confirmation and pinpointing. And then the other method we have, which I think most of you are familiar with, is the Itron acoustic leak sensor. It is a permanent monitoring method that helps detect existing and newly emerging leaks within the listening range of the sensors. It will identify leaks within days and not weeks or months. It is permanently connected to the pipe, and the solution provides a daily leak survey of the area to be monitored. And it is designed to last 20 years. The sensors can be installed separately to the Itron endpoint, and it is compatible with most of the Itron water modules. And the leak sensor was developed from the perspective that a leak detection crew will always use additional tools to pinpoint and to make sure there is confirmation of a leak before you start digging. And I think this concludes my section. Jeff?
Sorry, I couldn't get the mute button off. So we're going to go into a short video, as I said earlier, of Beneath the Surface After the Storm that was published by the BBC. If you could kick it off for us, Sheila. There you go.
Yep, we're good.
My name is Cora Malcolm. I am the project and data manager of Provo Water Company here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. We're an archipelago of 90 islands, no fresh running water, no rivers, no mountains, no lakes. We rely on desalination to convert high salinated groundwater into fresh water. This means that fresh water comes at a high cost. Water shortages are being experienced in all corners of the globe. So it is important that we conserve water and use it efficiently. In the case of Provo Water, back in 2014, we were at levels of 18 to 21% water loss in our network. It drove the decision to move to automated metering.
Itron provides innovative technology and services to help utilities and communities make smarter use of energy and water. AMI systems are really the foundational element for driving water conservation. Now, this is especially important for Provo Water because they don't have a natural supply of drinking water, and instead they need to convert seawater into drinkable water through use of electricity.
Itron's AMI system is a digital technology that allows us to gather customers' water usage data and identify leaks and bursts remotely.
And today, it has 63. It's a huge consumption. It's a huge flow passing through the district meter.
We never could have anticipated the importance that AMI system played in our recovery after Hurricane Irma.
I live in an area called Chalk-San. It's on the southern side of Providenciales. I've been living here for over 20 years, and I love it. It's an inspiration to wake up and see the beautiful waters. It is calm, it's peaceful.
Hurricane Irma, a potentially catastrophic Category 5 hurricane, is currently pummeling the Turks and Caicos and will head for the Bahamas before making a potentially devastating...
Hurricane Irma came in September of 2017. Me personally, I've lived through quite a few hurricanes, and I think that was the most scary hurricane that I have ever experienced in my life. You can hear windows like they're shaking, like they want to vibrate. The sound is just one that is unbearable. You never can forget it. It seems as if every hour was going by very, very slow because you were praying for this hurricane to pass, and it seems like the hurricane was never going to pass. It was touching.
Overnight, Hurricane Irma impacted our network, and we lost 50% of our reserves, which is approximately 3 million gallons, affecting all of our schools, homes, hospitals, airport. It was essential that we get the water back up and running, to get the community back up and running.
About a few days after the hurricane, we had no water at all. And it was wondering what happened. Provo Water said to me, we'll have to check your system. So they sent out a technician. It seemed like the pipe was very deep into the ground. There was a leak about 4 feet below the ground. You cannot survive without water. You can survive without electricity, but you cannot survive without water. So the water was a challenge for a lot of people. After that problem was solved, there was no more leaks.
Previously, when doing leak detection work, it could take anywhere from 7 days to 14 days before a leak could be identified. That's because the engineers manually went out and read all the meters under a district. With AMI, we are able to get those readings every hour.
You can't fix what you can't measure. So really solving any problem starts out with being able to measure it accurately. Itron's AMI solutions enable consumers to use water more efficiently. They can understand exactly how much water they're using, when they're using it. They can then go ahead and make personal decisions in order to reduce their water consumption. As I look at what we're able to do and the positive impact we can have on people's daily lives, that is truly inspirational for me.
Through use of AMI, Provo Water was able to restore full services and fully pressurize the network within 2.5 weeks. Prior to AMI, that would have taken us 2 to 3 months to do that.
Water may sound like a simple thing, but it's a very important commodity for a livelihood, for families, for business, for everyone.
We're excited to announce our Itron Inspire conference in October in San Antonio, Texas this year. Next slide, please. the Itron Inspire Conference is peer-led breakout sessions, insightful keynotes, thoughtful leadership panels, and interactive product showcase. We also, next slide, please. We're also holding our fall water end-to-end forum at this event. And registration for this event is going to go live probably this week or next week. So be looking for that information. We'll be sending emails out about that. And I think that concludes the presentation for today, and we will open this up for Q&A.